this window and this pad over here, and that's his only LOS, that's not really that good. In my opinion, it's not enough. At that point, it's like, okay, why are you even playing a soldier if you're only contesting 2 very minimal areas? You know what I mean? So I'd like to see Rein here, both Hanzo and soldier kind of chilling and pressuring choke the entire time for the most part, until it gets to a point where the soldier or the Hanzo are like, ugh, I can't really peek anymore. They're playing this. I got to be careful. Or they're like, they have these ultis. If I stay here, I'm going to die. So now maybe the soldier playing over here makes sense. But yeah, Rein, Hanzo, soldier, or vice versa, Ana, Zen. This also helps the rotation between soldier and Ana. Who's your 6th player? Zarya. Yeah, Zarya would just stay up here anyway, because she needs to be able to bubble for Rein the entire time whenever Rein calls like I'm swinging, or whenever he gets pressured. So Zarya's maybe here, throwing orbs down, kind of arbitrary. But you guys weren't putting a lot of emphasis on holding the choke because you had like a soldier over here at some point, and that really can't hold the choke at that well at all because he's not even LOSing it. Better comps to play here probably involve a Brig for sure. Let's see. Zen Ana is completely fine. I don't have a problem with that. Zen Ana is pretty good, but involving a Brig is pretty standard right now because this is a choke that they have to walk through to even start the fight. So pressuring the choke even further is really good in your favor. So assuming they have a Winston, right? If Winston wanted to get through this choke, almost always, if you wanted to get on top of your supports, you'd have to go for a weird flank route. Because if you guys had the Brig, like, what are they going to do? Okay, he's landed on top of your Zen and your Ana, but now he just gets Brig shield bashed in the face and he dies from like Discord. So Winston would have a very hard time against your guys' comp. They might swap to a Reinhardt, but now you guys just aggressively hold the choke with Rein, Zarya, Brig, which is a great tank lineup. And then, like, what is Rein going to do now? Okay, yeah, he's a bit better off than Winston, but he still has potential to get one shot the entire game, so he has to be super careful. So with a Brig, you can make it so that their tank line has to play like pussies the entire game. Like, they can't do anything. So then they're just relying on their DPS, and they'll try to DPS counterpick you. But the thing with DPS counterpicking is it's very easy to deal with a DPS counterpick. It's much easier to deal with a DPS counterpick than it is to deal with a tank counterpick, if that makes sense. Because, like, say they pick a Pharah right now because they see that you guys have a Brig. Okay, that's fine. You still have one of 2 DPS who realistically can hold Pharah back right now. Soldier does a really good job of holding back Pharah now. He doesn't really have kill potential for the most part if the Pharah plays correctly, but because of his buffs, the new Pharah is like not that great, right? Or say they pick a Doom and they try to just like delete your Brig. That's fine as long as you guys are tracking where Doom's playing with your Hanzo or your soldier and kind of warding them off the same way. Your Brig's never like in trouble. So I kind of like to see this comp swapped. I think the idea of trying to hold choke with 2 heroes who really don't have a ton of burst damage is kind of risky. Like the soldier here, I don't know. I don't really like it too much, to be honest. Like, he's good once he gets Visor, but he's only good on those fights. Every other fight, it's like, okay, you probably get more value from a different hero than Soldier. Soldier's good on like 2 maps right now.
Yo, is what maps was Soldier good on?
Numbani first point defense, he's insanely strong. Horizon first point defense, he's okay. That's about the only thing that comes to mind, to be honest.
Thing is, like, what are like?
Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, I mean, you going because it's a different question too.
I was just gonna say, like, he's gotten a ton of buffs and it's made him way stronger than he used to be, but it doesn't matter because, like, if you're gonna play a hit scan, you might as well just play McCree right now. McCree's like one of the best heroes in the game, or one of the best DPS in the game now, because he synergizes so well with Brig.
Right.
And what are like the sort of key points of like Dorado as a map? Like, like how like Numbani has like loads of high ground as first point, but what is like the right way to play sort of Dorado? I have no idea.
So defense advantage, you just want to play off the fact that they have to push through the choke the entire time to even start the fight. So you can abuse that. You can build comps around that. You can play very turtly so that they have to first break the choke and then they have to try to break your turtle team comp to like actually get pressure. That's always been a really annoying habit, a really annoying like trait of compositions, I guess, that are really effective. That's why I'm calling for the Brig here from you guys, because even if they do break it to their choke, Brig still gets value by just counter diving the dive with shield bash, things like that. So you kind of want turtly comps on defense, in my opinion. You want like bursty comps on defense too, so that they have a really hard time getting through choke. This isn't me calling for a Junkrat. I think Junkrat's really bad almost always. But you can, if you have a good Junkrat player, it's whatever. Think less like cheesy burst heroes and think more like turtly team comp based heroes.
So for the Brig, you swap one of our like current DPSs.
Yeah, 100%. I hate playing Brig solo support. I think it's really bad. I think even in ranked, Brig solo support sucks. So yeah, like 2 supports on a Zen is still fine for obvious reasons on this map on first point, and then play like a brig. And so for attack, what you're looking to do in a lot of cases is play comps that can avoid the choke at all costs. But the thing is, most teams until a really high level have no idea how to like cognizantly think about that or how to do it properly. There's so much stuff you can do. You can do a Winston rollout that allows you to slide down the roof the exact same way Doom does without getting caught, if you know how to do it. And that's like maybe a lesson for a different day. But our team does it all the time, and so Winston the entire game can just avoid coming through the choke or jumping over the choke, and that forces their team to be very cognizant of where we're at the entire time. We do Doom
But you need that
rollouts.
scouted in, right? You can't just go in blind.
Oh, 100%. Like yeah. So like if they're playing a Rhine comp, we know for a fact they're going to play anywhere from here to here, and then we can get value from the Winston jumping over almost every single time. If they're playing a Winston defense, we have to be a bit more careful because now we might burn leap, land here, get nobody, and then they just counter leap us and we die. So you got to be careful. But that's why I'm saying like it requires a bit better team to kind of go for things like that, because if you could just try to like mirror it or like emulate it as like a lower tier team, I guess, with bad comms, that's going to happen all the time. Doom's going to like slide down this roof and get himself killed. Winston's going to slide down this roof and get himself killed. But like, you know, that's just one example of many. The idea is to avoid the choke as much as possible when you're playing Winston-based comps. When you're playing Ryan Zarya-based comps, the misconception that a lot of teams have is that you want to play the Ryan Zarya strictly to bully the choke and win the choke war. I completely disagree. I think when you play Ryan Zarya, your mindset should be, let's try to use these 2 heroes to get through the choke as soon as possible, not to like bully them at the choke or like try to damage them out. Like if you're playing the Ryan Zarya, even against like some Winston D.Va based comps, you're still going to get bullied at the choke if you stay there too long. So your only goal should be, okay, let's stack at the choke guys, and then we'll turn the corner and push into them 3, 2, 1. And then Ryan just holds W the entire time into their team up the choke with as many resources as possible. But the longer you stay here on attack, even if you think you have a comp that's built at like winning the choke war, the worse and worse it gets, because the longer you stay there, the better the chance the defense has of just sending a DPS up top and going for a quick flank route and picking off your support and things like that. It's too risky. So Ryan Zarya comps in general, unless you're playing like a different variant of goats or say like Doom goats or something, are usually pretty shit here, in my opinion. I think Winston D.Va is definitely the play in most cases. You've probably seen Ryan Zarya comps work, but one thing you may not have noticed is how quickly they actually get through the choke or how much they even avoid it. Sometimes Ryan Zarya comps will even come over here by well, come up the staircase and come down the hill. Like the misconception is that you want to play the choke, and you really don't, no matter what comp you're playing. So attack, just avoid this. Defense, abuse teams that don't avoid this, and watch out for these like slide jumps and things like this, because the higher tiers you guys the higher tiers you guys go in scrims, the more you're going to see players going for an initial push through here to pull your guys' attention. Then you guys will try to commit to that, and then they'll get a free entry down main, things like that. Teams are really good at avoiding having to take like a 66 over here. So just small things to think about there. And then like semantics, second point, kind of a common trait. Almost every team will swap off Zarya on attack, or they'll swap off heroes who don't have verticality. And so that way they can contest. If you don't have success doing that, one thing teams will do is they'll turtle extremely hard on cart. And so what happens is, even though the enemy team has balcony control or has high ground control, it doesn't matter. They have to drop down on the cart at some point. So then once they drop down on cart, as their water falling down, the team who's playing very turtly on cart on attack can just kind of delete them. So think like goats, technically, like a team playing goats and just sitting on the cart and pushing the cart from under balcony so you can never LOS them the entire way down the street. And then eventually you guys have to drop in. So, but now you're dropping into goats with like a Winston, and that's not what you want to do. So that's also a good viable option, but you can't go half and half. Like you can't 50-50 your comp on Dorado. So you either play full verticality or you play like full like ground control. There's no in between. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, we'll unpause. Problem with Soldier here is if you guys don't win this first fight, it's really awkward for him to peek, because every time he peeks, he's going to be peeking into what could be a one-shot from Zen, a sleep from Ana, a Nano Blade coming over the top and just deleting him right away, Doomfist even just like one-shotting him. So Soldier's a bit risky here. Hanzo's fine though because he always has the threat of bursting, so they're gonna have to be a lot more cognizant of taking trades too, just as much as he is. So he has a bit more space and room to play with. You still want to like just peek over the ledge the entire time as Hanzo, but yeah, Soldier just doesn't really have that same one shot potential. This is where having him on like a Widow and playing defensively because your spawns are going to be close if you die, or having him on a Brig and still just controlling high ground so that your tank line has a lot of room to play with would be really good. But you guys are playing a 3-3 split, it looks like, which is really bad, to be honest, right now. Like you guys should be taking a fight.
Low ground here, right? So we also have that going.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you guys have 6. I don't understand why you're not just as soon as possible taking a fight
I
on
want to
cart.
take the right high ground, like in my mind, like deny that space. So we can
Up here? Yeah. So the thing is, like, and even then, like that's pretty necessary for one. But the other thing is, like, cart's already halfway up the hill. You guys have had 6 for a couple seconds now, and you guys aren't even like looking to set up on cart yet. Like, you guys should be taking a cart or fight on cart right now. Your first point didn't even go well in the first place. So in my mindset as a coach, I'm like, okay, they need to burn out the clock. Like, the offense has 4:05 on the clock right now. That's really, really good. What are they doing? Because if you guys are setting up like this, you're setting up as a 3-3. Yes, your team fight potential once the cart gets here is very, very strong. But why are you letting the cart go all the way from here to here before taking your first fight? You know what I mean? Like, that's super risky. Because now what happens is
fights otherwise, right?
yeah, 100%. You get way more fights. And now if you lose this fight, you've taken one fight and you lost it, and they just push the card in. So now instead of a 4:05, they may have like a 5:30. It's gotten even worse. Like, you guys need to win this next fight right here, assuming you guys don't take a fight on cart for the next like 10 seconds, which I don't know why you wouldn't. You really need to. And like, especially if you're playing a Soldier Hanzo, they need to be able to abuse this sight line. So does the Ana Zen, or being able to like have the Hanzo peek over this and like go for one shots and things like that, and then bait the enemy Winston D.Va up, and then he can kind of disengage, like use himself as bait, things like that. But nobody's up here right now, so I don't know what you guys are doing. You're like playing for the last fight of second point for some reason instead of taking 3 good fights. Okay, so now he's on cart, but we're just now starting to peak. And like, the thing is, the longer you guys take the fight on cart, the worse the LOS is for Soldier and Ana. So like, our positioning is still really, really awkward from all of you.
Well, if you go back, right, to that fight, it was kind of a surprise nano. I just felt like I needed value right now.
Yeah, no, you need to be on cart for sure. Like, that's fine. You're not gonna die with nano. I don't really care that you're on cart. That's completely fine because you're at least stalling it. But the rest of the team, before this fight even started, needed to have emphasis on being up here ready to go, so that as soon as you guys had 6, you could take a fight on cart. But yeah.
Typhoon, can you like rate that nano from Ana on a scale of 1 to 10?
Let's see. I'll go back 20 seconds.
I'd like it to be communicated at least instead of just randomly getting it, because I don't like. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like solo queue. Yeah. Yeah, it's whatever. It's not.
You hear that, you show?
Yeah, but like, you see how hard it is to even play off of your disc. Like, we're lucky we got a Discord on that Doom right there, right? Because like, I can't even tell where your Zin's at right now. But if your Zin's back here where you guys are playing earlier, like, look at how little space he has to Discord. He can Discord in this line of sight, right? But he can't Discord any further. So now what happens is, since the majority of the fight takes place here, I guess I should use a different color. Takes place here. How is your Zen LSing that? He's not. So what now are you guys playing a Zen, right? It makes no sense. So like, you guys need to actually take this early fight so that all 6 players in your team actually have some sort of value. Especially being able to have have your Zen and Ana play back here like the entire time is super, super strong, because now when they're not being aggressed, they can just peek this ledge. And Zen and Ana have a lot more DPS potential than people realize. Like, Zen and Ana can straight up just like frag players if they're not even contested and you guys don't need heals. When you guys do need heals, of course that takes priority, but Dude, Ana can just 3-shot like 200 HP heroes. It's super easy. Like she could just nade aggressively down on the cart, and you guys just win fights for free. But you guys aren't abusing discords. You're not abusing nades. You're not abusing support line of sight. You're not abusing soldier line of sight. Soldier's just now getting here, right? So I don't know. I'm putting emphasis on it because I just really don't understand why you guys would do what you did.
I also feel like if you
Okay.
had the supports there, then like contesting there in church or whatever, like that high ground, I don't have to
Mhm.
constantly kite back for LOS on the Ana to like,
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
fighting the tanks, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they can still peek aggressively, and when they can't, they can just call like I'm getting dived, and you guys can kind of respect that and like play a bit more passively until the dive is dealt with, either by peeling him or by killing the player who dived them. But until they're not getting dived, like I said, they can even play so aggressive they're not even healing now. They're just going for DPS when you guys don't need heals. Like they have that space to do that because they do have like this major high ground, and to be contested, the attack is going to have to burn some sort of movement cooldown. So it's going to be if you're paying attention to like their Winston, the second he leaps, your Zen Ana will like know, so or they'll have seen it, so they'll immediately start peeling for themselves. And like now the Winston alone isn't going to be enough. Or now if like both the Winston and the D.Va go by themselves, like I said earlier, I don't think two tanks on their own should be able to be enough to kill your supports basically ever, unless they're burning some sort of ulti, like maybe they nano the tanks. So if the supports see the Winston D.Va coming in right now, the Winston D.Va, I'll say D.Va's like right here. Okay, if both Winston and D.Va right now jumped your supports, as long as your supports were ready and cognizant that they're in a position where they can get dived, the second they see Winston leap, they just back off. And again, Winston D.Va is not going to be enough now to kill your two supports. It just won't be. So like they're going to have to burn up to 3 different players' movement cooldowns if they really want to kill your Ana's in. But by then, you guys have the option to counter dive. You have the option to ignore and drop down on their supports because you're burning way less resources than they had to get on top of their supports. You guys can literally
Yeah.
drop down. Like you don't
Just
have to
to
burn a movement
clarify,
cooldown.
when you say counter dive, is that peeling for our supports without jump
Yeah.
cooldowns or going for
Yeah.
theirs?
No, peeling for your supports. Counter diving. If we're talking about like just jumping their supports, we generally refer to that as like trading, right? So,
Right.
if they're gonna jump your supports, you jump theirs. But then the thing is, like I said, you guys have high ground already. So to jump their supports, you just drop down. You haven't burned a single movement cooldown. Now if things go poorly, you guys can use leap, but they had to burn leap to get up, so they don't have the option to just get away now for free. Like if you guys counter dive, that's it. They just die. Anyway, and we're kind of beating a dead horse here. Like I said, I don't understand why you guys had to 3-3 this like that and try to take a fight here as your first team fight of the game. Because again, like I said, if you lose that fight, you've just lost second point.
The reason why we
By the
are
way-
doing this, what, nice.
Mhm.
Well, the reason why we're doing this right now is because, again, we have a scrim where we only plan a team top position at the start of the game, and that's it.
Yeah,
We do callouts and shit, but it doesn't really matter because we don't have a plan.
right. Yeah,
So
I
it's
feel you.
just a soggy mess.
Yeah, but
Opinion.
can you explain to them the the whole concept of counter dive? You explain to one of the other teams how when if you jump on one hero, it's like one dive from Winston is like 30 damage, and if they group up on counter dive, it's like 100 damage. Can you just
Oh,
just go
yeah,
for it
yeah.
again?
So yes, I mean what he's talking about, or what I brought up with the other team, was like when you counter dive, you're always guaranteed to have more damage than the initial dive because like, okay, say you have an Ana here, okay, and their Winston burns leap to get on top, and like even if it's a perfect leap, okay, it's gonna do 50 damage, right? And then the D.Va came with him, and she shifted upward. But now the thing is, they have 2 tanks stacked on top of each other. They have 2 bodies as opposed to the 1 body they dived. So now when you guys counter dive, your Winston lands right on top of their Winston, so he does 50, but by splash damage he does like a 30 to the D.Va, right? So now your Winston has burned the exact same cooldown as their Winston, but your Winston's done 40% more damage, right? It's the same premise. Like if they burn Genji Dash to get up on 1 body, okay, you get 50 damage. If you burn Genji Dash to get up and counter dive, you get 100 damage because you hit the Winston and the D.Va. So every time you guys counter dive, assuming you guys hit the time slot correctly, you should deal quite a bit more damage than them overall. Also, the fact that you guys can play off of Discord now, the fact that you can play off of anti-nade, the fact that your supports alone are dealing damage, so you have man advantage when you do counter dive, like you have more players than they do. That's a big part of it too. But just like at the base level, you guys are getting more value out of your cooldowns than they are. But yeah, counter diving is super effective as long as you guys don't wait too long. If you wait too long, it becomes really pointless to do it. Okay. And like here, for example, I mean, I guess I can bring it up. So like here they have almost 6 ults. A good like mindset to have here at a high level would be, okay, we know next fight they have Nano Blade, right? And then we know that we have no ultis. So if we just try to counter dive the Nano Blade with like our tanks, which you'll see a lot, especially in rank, you'll see it a lot in scrims. Like your backline will get Nano Bladed, and then D.Va will go back and try to help. But the thing is, how often realistically does that even work, right? Like very, very rarely. Because the thing is,
You'd
like,
rather go trade or what?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because like if you just all death ball back like this, okay, and it doesn't work, you're gonna get 6-0'd, okay? Like you got no value for that at all. But
I think in this case we pop the trans, right? So he has to land the combo.
Yeah.
So and I think the Genji also in this case like cuts line of sight to his supports.
Yeah, and he'd have to dash up in the first place to actually get on top of your Zen. So realistically, he's not going to have a great time making this play work, but that's beside the point right now. So the idea is that if they Nano Blade in general, and you guys have really weak ult economy, the mindset shouldn't be like, okay, let's just counter dive that and try to like peel and see if we can win that way. Because again, that's going to work maybe 20% of the time at most, right? It's terrible win condition. But if you guys go, okay, we're probably going to lose this fight, that's no big deal. Let's at least get something out of it. And then you guys drop down and you trade instead. Yeah, you'll probably still lose. Okay, but you're not going to get 6-0'd. Like you're going to stall the fight out.
More, right?
Yeah, 100%. You're going to force a lot more value from their team. You're going to stall a lot more time on the cart. You're going to give you guys a lot more space to maybe get an extra fight in because you guys did die on cart. You didn't go back and turtle and die there while the cart moves the entire time. Like you're trading, right? So this pre-fight, you guys should have been like, okay, they've won 3 fights in a row. They definitely all have their ults. Nobody's an ult for a while. They're probably going to Nano Blade here. Okay, when they Nano Blade, let's drop down from high ground and kill like this person, right? That's the mindset to have. So pre-fight calling there could have been a lot better. Somebody said a second ago, you guys had no plan going into this map. You just wanted to like try a comp and wing it. That's fine. But this is basic stuff. Regardless of what comp you're playing, this is stuff that has no relation to the comp you're playing at all. That's just stuff you guys should know in general. Like for instance,
I think
when
in general, we just have like right now pretty poor ult tracking. Like and even if we call out things, we don't really like. It doesn't dictate our next action, even if we have that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's definitely something you guys could work on for sure. I've talked to both teams about the importance of that on like multiple different occasions. But yeah, pre-fight planning is definitely super important here. And then like first point, they won 2 fights in a row. You guys didn't win either fight. So you should just assume coming into this next fight that they have tons of ults in the first place. Also, you should assume, okay, they capped first point at 4:05 on the clock, which is insane. That's really, really good from them. So you guys should not have the mindset of, okay, let's play back here and try to win this fight and stall it out. It should be, let's take as many fights as possible on the second phase so that the clock gets burned down a bit, because we played the first phase extremely terribly. So we need to band-aid fix that by at least hurting the clock. So you may not win second point now because you're taking less, or you're taking, quantity over quality, I guess, just taking more fights that are bad than less fights that are good. But that's okay, because at least you're going to burn the clock down, which will kind of make up for your mistake on first point. So then it comes to point 3 and everything's stabilized. They still have a good time, but it's not an insane time, right? But if you guys were to lose that 3-3 fight, which you guys are setting up for, which you probably would have because you lost 2 fights in a row, remember? So they would have just ulted you in the first place, so it wouldn't have mattered. You would have lost that fight. Then again, I'll say it one more time, they would have pushed card in because you guys would have let them push so far, and then it'd be 5:30 on the clock, and then you guys would have to defend third point for 5 minutes 30 seconds, which would be ridiculous. Like that shouldn't happen. So your mindset on the second point should have been, let's take as many fights as possible and fix our mistake on first point of letting them cap with 4:05, and then that's probably the mindset to have. And that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't matter what comp you're playing in the game. That's just a basic thing, right? So like, that's indicative of you guys not having good team synergy in game for this map in particular, or just really being out of it and like having no idea how to play this comp at all, and it's like throwing you guys off.
So one quick question I have as well is like, if we assume like we're trying to go for trying to get as many fights as we can on the card, and if their tanks push up like all the way to all the way to like our choke essentially, right? So their tanks push up and it's like making so much space at the choke whilst the payload's moving, and we know one's contest, right? Then what do we do like in that instance?
Can you say that one more time? Yeah, I'm sorry.
So let me take control if that's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that we lost and like we need to like take as many fights as we can, right? And our tanks are trying to come this way, right? But the enemy tanks are like are holding all the way like right here to stop us from getting through to like the choke, right? Then what do we do in that instance?
Are you saying they're holding like
Yeah,
down
yeah.
low?
Yeah, no. So the tanks are like basically put like holding like right by the choke, like there. Like the enemy tanks are holding like so we want to like take as many fights as we can, but the
Yeah.
enemy tanks are like playing super up front and making space, right? So what do we do? Do we
But you should
like
have
go for the fight
like
or
verticality anyway, right? Like you guys should be engaging from high ground almost always on Dorado. Like almost every time, if you're gonna take a fight, it should be from high ground. Like, unless the cart's let's say like right here and they're about to cap it. Of course, you can't just afford to go all the way up high ground and drop in. That wouldn't do anything for you anyway. But the entire streets phase from here to like here, every single time you guys take a fight, you just come through bank, you put your supports up top, your DPS up top, whatever. Anybody you can get up there without being contested for too long, and then just have your Winston drop in and your D.Va drop in. And now what happens is Winston can drop in first, and D.Va can just stand up here matrixing the Winston from up top. And then when he gets slow, now D.Va can drop in, and Winston can drop his bubble and help the D.Va. And D.Va will fight long enough until she'll get her matrix back, and then she'll matrix herself a bit on the cart, and then she'll go back up. And now Winston will drop in. It's just called cycling. It's called tank cycling. You can do that
Well,
all
yeah,
day long.
So I meant more like from a point of view of like if we like our goal like is to like fight, right? So our goal is to like
Mhm.
fight on the card, but then we want to like fight on this high ground here, right? But
Yeah.
the enemy tanks are already set up on the high ground, right? Because if we go back like 10 seconds, right, then we can see the. I mean, if we would come back to like here for example, right now when like right now when we're about to set up, like if we assume like the enemy tanks pushed up like to here to make space, right? Because they have like an Ana Zen that can sort of heal a bit, and they're trying to like, make space from playing all the way here. Then
Yeah.
do we go for the fight? Like, do we like fight here, or do we just ignore them and try like jump at the back line?
No, you still the tanks alone should not be able to hold this by themselves ever. Like the Winston D.Va should not be able to hold bridge by themselves. Like that's not nearly enough resources to keep you guys from holding bank. What you'll see sometimes is they'll put like a DPS over there at the entrance to bank or the top entrance. Maybe they'll put a McCree over there with flashbang, and if the flashbang pit doesn't work, the D.Va will matrix him out and he'll walk back down. Or they'll put a Doomfist over there and he'll try to punch you guys off, things like that. But even then, if you guys scout it, it doesn't matter. But two tanks like a Winston D.Va holding high ground should never be enough to keep you guys from getting high ground on this map. Because yes, they're LOSing on a Zen every time they peek back a bit, but that means the entire fight, every time they need heals, they need to walk back and walk back and walk back and walk back. It's not feasible for tanks. So what needs to happen is
cards still being pushed, right? So like they're just pushing the cart for free, whilst
It
like
doesn't
they're
matter.
sort of like taking there.
it does if they're a good team. As soon as you guys have 6 and you push up top, they have to respect that, because if not, they're going to lose their tanks almost immediately because of how easy it is to pressure them, and they have to drop back down. So what ends up happening is you guys come through bank as 6 players or as many players as needed. Maybe you send one player over here, maybe it's a Widow or a DPS with your ulti at most. You don't send any more than one player. I think more than one player is really bad, and they can go over here and go for a flank play or do whatever they need to do. But the other 5 players, minimum 6 normally, will just come through bank, contest them off of bridge. Now the tanks, like I said, if they're a good team, will respect that and drop down because they can't afford to stay up here the entire time. And then almost immediately, you guys are essentially, just by having the presence of 6 players, forcing them off high ground. You, in some cases, won't even have to burn like a movement ability, because like, okay, they have all 6, they're pushing in. You know, on King's Row, when you cap first point and you send like 4 players forward, 5 players forward to go just like kill anybody who got complacent and didn't want to like back off on streets phase, and like you just kill them, like you're just a killing squad. So you just kill a player who messed up here, you kill a player who messed up here, you kill a player who respawned late, and you just selfless them, right? If you remember selfless from season 2, that's a very standard play in scrims in King's Row. Even in ranked in King's Row, once you cap, you send 4 players forward while you're waiting for the cart to get unlocked, and then Lucio will stay on the cart and everybody else will push forward, or Ana will stay on cart and the Lucio will push forward as a team. It's a standard play in high SR, okay? It's the exact same premise on Dorado. The only reason after you cap first point to send the Winston D.Va and a couple DPS up here is just to see if they're going to be stupid enough to send like a couple players up bank by themselves. Because then if they do that, the Winston D.Va will launch on top of those players, and the Doom will launch on top of those players, the Genji will launch on top of those players, and they'll try to get that free pick. And now if they do that, they're denying the enemy team from taking 4 or 5 players up there at once, or 5 or 6 players up there at once. And now the tanks can actually control this a bit by playing like inside the building and jiggle peeking, and like the Genji can kind of just, you know, jiggle peek this balcony and farm free ult charge on them as they come up the hill. But that's why you do that, is you want to see, is this team bad enough that they're going to send just a couple players at bank alone by themselves and allow us to just jump them? And if they do, then of course you'll take that opportunity. But if they don't, you have to respect that and you have to just drop down, because now what's going to happen is they're going to come barreling out of bank as 6 players, and you as the Winston are like, oh, rip. Then you need to just like try to find a way to get out, because you're not going to be able to 1v6 as Winston. You're not going to be able to 2v6 as Winston D.Va. Honestly, you're not going to be able to 3v6 as Winston D.Va Genji. So you have to respect it and you have to leave. And now you just sit on cart. Or you sit over here like on this ledge up against the outside of this building, the cheeky ledge. But realistically, your guys' mindset on defense should be, let's group as 6, and if we want to take this high ground, let's stack very like disciplined and very like deathbally, and just come up the bank stairs and get up here. And you
Both
have to do
tanks
that.
rotating through the health kit room as well. What?
Yeah, for the most part. If they're not holding this, then don't put emphasis on it. You know, everybody who has movement cooldowns can just jump up here. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the reason why generally, if they are holding it, you want to do that is because your Ana and your Xin don't have movement cooldowns, right? So what happens if you just send them through the bank by themselves? Well, now you're risking a lot. Like now maybe there might be a player down there, a DPS down there, and now your Xin just gets Doomfist Punch, something like that, right? There's so many things that could happen. So you just mitigate that by sending all 6. Yeah. But no, like there should never be a case where a team can hold this with just 3 players or 2 players. Like that doesn't make sense. If you guys are deathballing and you're disciplined about how you push in here, you're not giving them opportunity, like I said earlier, just launch into bank and just delete a player. That will never happen. And that's the only reason why you even send your tanks up here early.
And it's better to go as a 6 stack or like a 5 and a 1, like or does it ever make sense to like go as a 4 and a 2? Or because you said like a 3-3-6 stack, but so it's better like 5-1 or full 6, right?
I can't think of a single strat on this map where sending 2 players over here to IV is actually a good play. Like maybe if you're playing a defense Pharah on some weird meta, like maybe season 3 when defense Pharah was okay here, but like even then that's only because the pharmacy's in the air, like right above the church. But if you're gonna send a player over here, it's probably a Widow, and what's gonna happen is you guys are just trying to take a fight right here, so that the entire time your Widow's crossfiring from behind and just going for free picks. And now if they try to send a couple players to kill the Widow, well now they're down players in the cart. That's a standard play. That's a good play.
Exposed if they
right.
For that, right.
Yeah, that's a basic standard play. You've probably seen it ranked 1,000 times from good ranked players, or like if you watch good players stream, good DPS players, they go for that play constantly. Or maybe you'll send the soldier over here if you had Visor, and he would Visor from the back. And now if they want to kill the soldier, yeah, they might kill him, but it's going to take way too many resources, and you guys will win the fight. Maybe you send a Hanzo over there, and he's just stormbowing and just deleting from across the map the entire time. Even if he gets no picks, just the threat of a one-shot hero being over here is very scary for the offense. They have to play very turtily. They have to most likely just drop in here and play under the balcony now. But the thing is, they're not playing a comp that's built to do that, so they're in a bad position. There's so much stuff you guys could do by sending 1 player there. But by sending 2 players there, you're committing way too many resources. And now when they counter dive up there, they're getting a lot of value, because now instead of just killing a soldier or a Widow, maybe now they're killing a soldier and an Ana, or a Widow and an Ana. So it doesn't really make sense. So generally, I can't think of a play where sending 2 players here is good, but I can think of hundreds of plays where sending 1 player here is fine. So either 5-1 or 6-0, just on this side, and you all 6-man take balcony, and then like your tanks will drop in. Maybe a DPS will drop in if needed. If you're playing the Brig will drop in. I think Brig is insane. It's one of the most broken heroes in the game. Anybody who disagrees can fight me. I'll see you at LAN.
One question about Brigitte. So, like, would you play more, I guess, forward with the tanks? Like, basically try to take the shock, like if the enemy team dives on the high ground with the tanks, or should you just like stay in the backline, for example, with the Widow and provide the shield?
Totally. Completely depends on the win condition of the enemy. Well, first of all, I'll say that you basically will never just sit in the backline with the Widow on this map, because the backline is very far away. On like a map like Gibraltar defense, where putting the Widow behind the Brig makes a bit more sense. That's because whenever the Widow rotates, she's just dropping down a couple steps, and Brig can too. But here, the best line of sights for Widow are going to be this area and this area back here, and that would mean pocketing the Widow would also put your Brig all the way back here, which is really, really risky, because now she can never like actually engage in the team fight where she wants to be. So I wouldn't do that.
Drawing again, by the way.
Me? Yeah, I'm drawing. Can you guys see it?
No, I can't.
Oh, because I didn't. Hold on. Let me regain control real quick. Can you see now?
No.
Really?
I can just see the bright red box around.
Yeah, the top right, around the composition.
Okay, let me try this. You guys may have to refresh, and I'll refresh too. I don't know. Visor's been really weird lately. Can you see that?
I'll
reload.
refresh.
The X, yeah.
Oh no, I did that hours ago. Hold on, I'll just refresh.
Black Circle of Death.
But you guys don't really need that while we're refreshing. Like, essentially, the idea is that you want to play to their win condition, right? So if their win condition next fight is we're gonna Nano Blade, then just keeping Brig on top of the supports. If you aren't confident, like sleeping the Genji or things like that, may not be worth it. But having the Brig drop down with the tanks and just pressuring their backline or trading, like we said, could be worth it, right? And then you just let your supports die. If you are confident that putting a Brig on high ground supports is going to mean that you guys can kill the Nano Blade, so say maybe you have like a Brig McCree, something that can just immediately kill a Genji when he's nanoed, then of course keep him next to your McCree, or keep your Brig next to your supports the entire time, so that when the Genji does Nano Blade in, he just gets shield bashed, flash, and killed. Only thing you're looking for with the Brig is what's their win condition next fight, and how can I counter it, basically. Or what's our win condition if we have a ton of ultis, and how can I enable it? So, you know, if you're super scared of their ult economy, then you'll play safe and try to counter that. Or if you...
I'm just gonna... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask, because, like, what's your opinion on not running Brig at all? Like, do you think it's viable to play without the Brig on pretty much each map?
It's
or
fine
is
on
it
a lot of
okay?
maps, but there are maps where it's crucial to have a Brig, right? Like, there
Yeah.
are maps where you just can't afford not to play it in a lot of cases. Like, a lot of cost. There's so many cost maps where if you're not playing a Brig, you're just gonna lose, to be honest. Especially at a high level. Like, you've probably noticed, if you watch any of the what are the recent cups that have happened? If you watch any of trials, contender trials for any region, if you watch the what was that thing broadcast recently? The Not for Normies Cup, a bunch of like tier 3, tier 2, like 4.5k NA players, or NA teams. You probably noticed, like, even on maps where you think goats would not be good, like Lijiang Gardens, all they play is goats. It doesn't matter. Like, they still just play it because of how strong Brig is. You know, like it's just really hard to get past it in a lot of cases. This is a map where if you guys really wanted to, you could make a Brigless comp work. Like, you could play a Junkrat and a Widow back here on defense, and that's a lot of like choke pressure. And that doesn't involve a Brig, true, but it also relies on you hoping your Junkrat never gets picked, your Widow never gets picked, which is kind of unreliant, right, or unreliable. That's why I prefer the Brig, because like you're taking less of a gamble, and if you're the better team, you're just going to win the map. But like when you take these gamble comps like that, like a Widow and a Junk, you're just hoping every single time that you show up at scrims that day that your Widow's warmed up or your Junk's not feeding, and like that's a really inconsistent variable. But if you play a Brig, Brig's kind of like static. Like, you know what you're going to get from your Brig every single time. So if you're the better team and you play around it, you're just going to win. Like, you're just going to win. You know, it's that simple.
So
you're not taking,
basically,
like,
it's
coin
like
flips.
your win condition for some maps.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just her ability to, like on the Bonnie defense, right? Almost every team runs a Brig now, because when you dive upward on top of the enemy defense on the first team fight, like, you know, on the first team fight of the game, okay, you just get Brig shield bash now and flail off, and like, okay, now the entire game is Monkey. You do nothing. You just sit there and like you I don't know, you kind of cry because like your hero sucks. So like,
Yeah.
you know, there are certain maps where you just can't afford not to play it.
Doom is
This
here.
is a map where you could afford not to, but you need to have really good discipline and like maybe a good Widow player, maybe a really good Hanzo, you know, and Brig just makes it all easier.
By the way, Typhon, did you restart the VOD?
Yeah, if you guys just click the
Yeah.
link again.
I can see it at least.
I'm 8 seconds past.
Yeah, mine's there too. Sorry, I was
Alright.
just explaining that real quick. We'll go back to the.
Yeah.
map.
Yes, sure. Just checking.
Okay, det bolt angle. D.Va top.
Okay, I don't know how much I just skipped.
You
let's see.
you skipped like just before you're talking about how we should trade instead the Genji, like the actual attack with the they had almost 6 ults, right? They were about to take
Right,
a fight.
okay, yeah. So
Okay, me,
one
me.
fight before this, I
I'm
think.
monkey.
I'm taking payload.
Is anyone dead?
Yes, this is it.
Okay, like right here.
Yeah.
Magula.
Makila, that's good.
Watch out for D.Va bomb, it's coming.
Got bomb should be fine. Yeah, he made a lot of space against you guys, and you guys had the trends.
Genji one. Kill him. I'm going.
Monkey me.
I'm a monkey.
I'm taking payload.
Is anyone dead?
Getting fucked.
So the way you guys are playing this right now is actually not too bad. You kind of knew coming into this fight that they had 5 ultis. If you guys are ult tracking correctly, even if you don't have a good ult tracker, it should be common sense. If they won 3 fights in a row and they haven't used their ults, they just have ults, right? That's common sense.
Mhm.
So this fight, you guys are kind of assuming, okay, we're probably going to lose this, and you're playing kind of turtley, but you're playing it in a good way because like Zestio the entire time is just controlling the cart. So even though they're winning this fight, they're not going to actually get value from the fight until the entire fight's over because Zestio is going to try to die on cart. Here, you're going a bit deep.
Yeah,
But until then-
I completely feed. Like, look at the Ana's HP. I just tunnel vision too fucking hard.
Yeah, but before
Like,
this, you said I'm gonna fight on cart, and you were like primaling, and you were making sure cart didn't push, and the rest of your team was dying. But that's good because, like I said, you guys knew you're gonna lose this fight unless you made some miracle play, and miracle
Right.
plays are not what you try to play for. So you playing on cart, stopping it from moving, and not letting cart move until you all die is the right mindset from you guys. So you guys play this okay. Could have been better. Like this cart, this entire time should have been here, and then you guys should have lost the fight right here. But it's the right mindset to just keep the cart from moving in a fight where you know you're gonna lose. And try to farm your ultis out, try to burn their ultis out. Kind of just like a dry push, which is
It's actually very
kind of weird on
similar, I don't
defense,
know
but it
why
is
people
what you have to
play
do sometimes.
Ana's so weak. Can't believe this. You need to block payload.
Can
On
I
the
get
Molo.
the nano for the
Fick
last?
inte.
Uh,
Markera skurd.
Magus fälla. Half.
They backed off cart for now.
He's a fight card. I can block for
coming
you.
for me.
Sure. Me too.
Yeah, they're coming for me. Like little bitches there.
this is kind of a bad board because there's not too much like team play in my opinion to
Well,
watch.
I think it's good because in that sense, like, also you'll see on the attacking thing, like, we are not scouting when we're diving. We're kind of just fucking going blind,
Yeah.
and it kind of highlights that a lot. Like, I need to go high ground. Diva's chasing me.
Yeah, I mean, I see
Yeah,
a shit
right.
ton of mistakes, that's for sure. But
Thank you.
I don't know.
Payload. Ana low. Diva, baby Diva low.
You winning this fight?
I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
are.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Trying to stay alive. I'm setting Genji now.
Nice Nana.
We can chase kills
Okay.
somewhat, but not too far. That's fine. Yeah.
Do it on me.
This new bug where when you nano somebody, if you're a spectator, it doesn't show them as blue is really infuriating as a coach. Because like Yoshi just popped nano there, I think, but we can't tell that carries nano, but he is that
No,
entire time.
I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No,
Well,
because,
that is like a
you know,
super common bug right now, and like I get like infuriated because you'll end up nanoing somebody and you can't tell like 90% of the time because they won't show up as blue.
I think.
yeah.
I think in
It's
this
super
case I
tilting.
should have been a bit more vocal to carry that I was pulling out, so I was not alone. Like,
Yeah. No, it's not a big deal. One of the bigger things I like to see here is now you guys 3-3 split because the cart is in a position where 3-3 splitting is smart, or at least put an Ana Zen. I mean, sorry, the Ana soldier here, and maybe a Zen down low in this pocket, like next to where the cart caps, so that if they want to dive the Zen, they end up having to like burn resources and jump into the choke, and now your Ana soldier can kind of like defensive anti-nade and like hit your Zen and nade them, things like that. But I want to see Ana soldier here right now for sure. Unless you guys are trying to play a very aggressive fight and push into them right now. In that case, you would want all players up here. That's probably not the play. Now the play is to play defensive and have like Zestio kind of play like turtley, have Pickle play turtley, and then have like the Ana soldier over here so that they're very hard to get dived and they can play around each other. So now you're on the entire map or the entire next team fight is very, very safe, and she can just focus on healing. Because like I said, if they try to burn the Ana now, you'll just drop anti and heals at the same time, and you have this ridiculous healing pad for the next 4 seconds, and a Genji alone, or just a Genji and a Winston alone is not going to be enough. So playing back there right now, probably the play. If you want to put Ana Zen soldier back there and 3-3 it, that's fine too. I'd probably like to see one player down in the choke though. That's a really good play. Have Winston Diva either playing up top, up against this wall, or if they like come up balcony and you're losing too much HP or something, even just dropping down. Like, you know, this little hump thing right here, it's kind of hard to highlight. It's like up against the wall.
A wall you can sit behind.
Yeah, like your tanks can play there too, just right next to the cart. And so the enemy team has to turn the corner and fight into your defender's advantage now. It's very small defender's advantage, but it's some sort of upgrade for your team fight. And now you guys just fight on cart with the Ana and the soldier pelting from up top. They have blade this fight. They don't have nano, and they have trance. So they'll probably call for a trance blade if they play this incorrectly. If they play it perfectly, they'll call for a trance blade and nade your trance because maybe they knew that you guys had trance. Just depends on how good their ult economy is, or how good their IGLing is, I guess, their ult tracking. So this fight we may just see a blade. This fight we may just see a trance. This fight we may see both and a nade if they play this perfectly. Who knows? But the best positioning for you guys right now is either 2-1-3 or 3-3.
Diva top.
There should be 20 of the both that output. There should
discard
another
myself.
blade. Did you do mold yet? Oh no, no.
Go for Diva.
They-
No,
No, no.
go for Diva.
They-
No, 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 no. Go for Diva. Do.
Make it
Alright.
discard, make it discard.
Hello?
Oh wait, hey, you guys can hear me now. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, I
Like,
thought
he's
you
drawing
passed
things.
up,
What's going on?
Yikes. Okay. So what I was saying, which I'm assuming you guys heard me talk about, like why you guys should play 3-3 right now.
No. Well,
No. Okay. Well, this is a
like,
better
before,
POV.
Before you rotated under the bridge, the camera, that was the last time I heard you.
Okay. So what I said was essentially either you guys play 3-3
Yeah.
with Ana Zen Soldier, or you play and like the Hanzo over here with the tanks, or you play 2-1-3 with Ana Zen. Ana Soldier, and like a Zen down here. Okay, or Soldier Zen up here and an Ana down here, either one. Preferably the Ana up top with the Soldier though. And then you have the other 3 players playing here. So it's either a 3-3
So
or it's a
preferably
2-1-3.
those two together because of the nade combo with the healing.
combo. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Zen's a very good bait hero because like they'll see a Zen alone and they're like, oh, free kill, right? When you see an Ana alone, sometimes you're like, oh, she's just gonna sleep me. Like that's why she's playing there. When you see a Zen alone, you're like, oh, dude, free kill. This guy's an idiot, and you dive the Zen, and then top tier teams want you to do that. Like they're just using the Zen as bait the entire time, and you're gonna invest time and invest time and invest time, and finally you kill the Zen, and you look back and your entire team's dead because you wasted too much time, right? So using Zen as bait is very strong. So it'd be like Zen, Soldier, Ana, and then 3 players here. So it's called a 2-1-3 or a 3-3. So that, and you're doing this because you want to play defensive. Cart is just a few meters from capping. Like I talked about, if you wanted to just play a 3-3, you could play 3 players here, play Winston Diva right here, and a Hanzo peeking up top, going for very small peaks. But they have a Doom Genji, so if he plays right here, it's going to be very hard for Genji to one-shot him unless he hits like a god tier, like triple shuriken and like a follow-up with double shuriken or something, which doesn't even happen in pro play, like maybe once in a million years. And then the Doom's not going to be on top of the Hanzo. So your Hanzo actually has free space to peek this every now and then, in between, like before the fight starts, and go for free picks and go for free ult charge. But yeah, so that's all I brought up. And then I brought up their ult economy, but we'll see.
Oh no, no.
Go for Diva.
They-
No, 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 no. Go for Diva.
I had another comment and I forgot now. Oh yeah, you'll see right here. It's exactly what I'm talking about. How like counter diving has better damage overall. Watch what they do. Like it's just a straight feed because they didn't commit enough
Did you
players
do
at all.
mold yet?
No,
They committed-
the DPS was not with the 2 tanks, yeah.
Yeah, they committed the bare
Diva
minimum.
commits before Winston as well.
Oh no.
Right.
Go for Diva.
They-
No, 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 no.
The face feeds. Diva should always burn shift before Winston, but this was way too gross. Like this was a extreme example of that. Like she needed to burn shift first, yes, but then Danny needs to almost immediately be leaping up here too, so they land at the exact same time. This was just really bad from them.
Yes.
It's a very good
Make it
farm
discard, make it
because you guys
discard.
counter dive.
Monkey going for me. No, I don't.
I'm going to send-
Now he's trying to primal people into the Diva bomb, so he feeds 2. And they gave you guys a free team fight win. Now, because you guys lost no heroes at all, and you lost no health at all, and they just fed 2 of their highest HP heroes, and apparently they're Zen, you guys are super ahead in ult economy. Now your ult economy is stacked. Like, they just gave you so much. So now you play this ult economy correct for the rest of the map, and potentially now you full hold. You play this ult economy poorly for the rest of the map, all they have to do is dry push you 1 time, and next fight they win. So you gotta be careful. So this next fight, if I'm like your guys' IGL, and I'm pressing tab, and I look at their ult economy, I'm calling, okay, they haven't used Nanoblade in 2 fights, they probably have Nanoblade here. Has Zen Trance? You guys would say no. I'd say, okay, they definitely have Trance. I don't know how close they are to Doom multi, right? That's probably like how you'd hear top tier IGL calling that, because Doom multi is very inconsistent. It's hard to track. You wouldn't worry about it too much. So you say it could be close, or you'd probably just say he's probably, it's been 2 fights now. He's probably like 60 or 70 guys stulty, just to be safe. You want to call it a bit higher than normal. Then you want to call it lower in most cases. And I look at our ult economy and go, okay. So this fight, if they Nanoblade, Zesio and Pickle, can you guys just dive their backline? And then Moose, can you trance? And then you guys would say yeah, and that's it. So then what would happen is they'd burn Nanoblade, we'd burn 1 ulti, so we have 2 for 1 value, and then we still kill their support line because they instead of peeling, would have committed a lot of resources to making space for the Nanoblade. And so if you guys were there previously, when I talked about how to enable Nanoblade, you would know that when you Nanoblade, your Winston on your team should dive in very aggressively, like way more aggressive than normal, so that the enemy team either goes, okay. Yeah, for the blade combo.
Yeah.
Just so that you're making space, and the enemy team will go, okay, he's feeding, commit resources to killing him, or okay, he jumped past us, go run to him, right? Or okay, he's jumped into us, they're diving us now, be careful and get away. And so they're committing resources to get away, but they're committing resources no matter what now, because the Winston aggressed very heavily, and that means they don't have resources to deal with the Nanoblade in some cases. So now your Nanoblade has a better chance to pop off. And if your win condition was a Nanoblade, then of course you want it to pop off, like you wanted to enable it as much as possible. So again, they're a top tier team. What they probably do here is call for Nanoblade, and they call for Dandy to be very aggressive on your guys' backline over here on the backside of the 3-3. So Dandy will probably flank this team fight if it's a top tier scrim, and he'll go through Church or some kind of play like that, and he'll pressure your 3-3 into a corner, or he'll pressure your 3-3 into thinking that he's feeding, and you guys may think that he's a feeder, and you'll go for him, and he's actually just baiting. And then Hiku and Irrelevant will Nanoblade on their team, and you guys will die if they play it perfectly. Thing is, though, not a top tier scrim, okay? Also, we have our own ult economy to play around, like I said. So, call, hypothetical IGL in your game right now. I said when they Nanoblade, we drop in on their supports because they won't have resources, which is still true. And then we trance. So now our trance beats their Nanoblade. They have to trance to beat our tank dive, which is huge value for us because now all we did was drop down and they had to trance. They had to Nanoblade to beat our trance, right? So we get major ult economy there. And then you guys will still probably win the fight because the entire time you've secured defender's advantage. Like you've never lost a single player. You're still playing in your line of sight. It would be really good. So essentially, like I said, template for a top tier IGL. The fight just ended. You guys will go, okay, next fight, they have Nanoblade. They probably have trance. They're probably 60 to do multi. So this fight, whenever they Nanoblade us, can you guys just dive their backline and Moose will trance us? And you guys would say, okay. That took 10 seconds for me to say that. It would take 10 seconds in game. Everybody would be on the exact same page, and then we'd be good to go. So I'm going to unpause, and we'll see how this plays out.
Let's go. Let's clean up.
Mhm.
Yeah, calling cleanup is fine. You have very little time to do this, though, so you guys got to be careful.
Doom just died, though, like, when that happened, under the bridge.
Oh, okay.
Joshua, let's set up none of us here. Top right.
I think you guys killed the Diva way too early, right? Let me go back and see.
We got what we wanted.
Joshua, let's set up none of us here. Top right.
You mean the actual baby, right?
Yeah.
It's fine now.
Joshua, let's set up none.
No.
Joshua, let's set up
Oh yeah, you did. You killed her at 30%. Now she's at 27 to Diva Bomb, but you killed her at 30%. If you guys would have just went back up to verticality, never let her peak the entire time, it's going to take way longer for her to get mech from 30 to 100 than it is if you just kill her and let her respawn. Potentially double the time. And because they want to take quality over quantity fights on attack, that entire time they'd have to just wait for Diva to get mech. But because you guys are playing verticality and not peeking her, she would have never gotten mech, except for the passive ult charge, which takes forever.
So you'd rather let her remake.
100%. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Because like she's gonna remake anyway, right? Either way. So you might as well just make her take longer to do it. And if you think about what you gain by killing her there, you gained a 150 HP kill. But if you think about 150 HP for Ana, that's 6% ultra. Like that's nothing, right? Would you rather have 6% on your Ana's nano, or would you rather have an extra 10 seconds off the clock, right? So it's like, and especially you do that 3 times in a match. Okay, you stagger Diva perfectly 3 times in a match. You've taken 30 seconds off the clock. You've taken a full team fight off the clock by doing that. But if you don't stagger Ana throughout the match, you've only given your Ana. Or, I mean, sorry, if you don't stagger Diva throughout the match, you've only given your Ana in those 3 times 18% ult charge, right? Or so now it's like, okay, would you rather have 18% ult charge on your Ana's nano, or would you rather just them not have a full team fight this game, right? It's obvious at that point. So, yeah, a lot of teams don't put emphasis on how important it is to stagger Diva like that. When you have maps like this where you can just completely break LOS the second you kill Diva, you should just do it every single time, right? So demech her, leave, get out. She doesn't get to farm anybody the entire time. She has to passively recharge mech. That could take up in 25 seconds. 25 seconds where you guys have no team fight. So keep that in mind. Definitely just costed you guys 10 seconds by all of you guys focusing that Diva there that hard.
What the fuck?
Now you guys are playing a bit more aggressive, which is fine. You're already prepped to play over here. That's okay. I'd like to see the full team up here as much as possible. I don't know where Ana Zin is. I think you guys are probably over here right now. If that's the case, you guys need to be ready to rotate before this fight starts, because I do still want to see the soldier over there with the supports to be peel. So you guys can play over here for a second and be aggressive and kind of farm them for just a tiny bit. Then you need to rotate. Okay, and then I don't know how long this pause is.
Yeah, he's like a water.
And we're gonna like speed run through the rest of this defense, because a lot of this is just like you guys having to deal with the fact that you got snowballed for the first 6 minutes, or the first like 14 fights. And I don't want to just run over that the entire time. And we'll go over your attack real quick here in a second.
I'm changing sides.
Go,
They're gonna die mid, they're dying me.
Okay, counter guys. Go back to our support.
Checking.
If you guys preemptively had called for Moose to trance, then you would have known to never counter dive, because you know he'd be fine, and then you guys could play aggressive. So this is like one key piece of not having synergy as a team on this map, because now you're counter diving, and it may work, but it wouldn't work near as effectively as it would have if you guys just played aggressive and let Moose do his own thing, and then have the Ana soldier back here be the one who are technically counter diving. But the benefit of them counter diving, quote unquote, is they can do it from this range and never burn a single cooldown. So you guys would have saved 2 cooldowns here from your tank line, and you probably would have gotten the same, if not better, value, because you would have known Moose is going to trance this fight. So
Sure, I think we could have probably forced trance there with the 3 players.
oh yeah, 100%.
We just got the widows. So it's just going to be the 2 supports right now by themselves.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier. Is like you guys drop on top of their support line, they're going to burn trance, but all you had to do was drop in. But for them to burn, or for us to burn trance, well, they kind of caught you guys out. They really shouldn't have been able to burn Moose's out. But the other benefit of that though is for them to burn Moose's trance out, they had to put 2 players extremely far back behind all 6 of our players. Whereas like our tank line would have had to only drop in on top of 2 players, so they would have been fine the entire time. So we're still getting benefit here technically, but this should have been pre-planned for sure.
Watch out for blade, next fight.
V1.
Ana died at the start of that fight, so we got
Get you after me.
a bit spooked because of that.
Gotcha.
I'm counter
Get you one,
diving.
get you one, nice.
Got it. Ana 1.
Ana one.
I'm ulting for this.
Oh wait, was that Winston and Genji diving you, not Winston and D.Va?
Yeah.
It was Winston, D.Va, Genji.
Oh, all 3 of
first.
them?
Yeah, it was
What's
all
the-
3.
Okay,
So-
then
so what
you
happened was-
trancing is completely fine. But then us counter diving is even worse than it was before, because now we definitely need to now us counter diving is even worse than it was when I paused that, because I thought it was just Winston D.Va, but it was Winston Genji D.Va. So now us just diving on cart would have been even better. Like, so you trancing is fine, but us counter diving as a team is probably not the play. So yeah, keep that in mind, I guess.
Yeah, don't leave payload. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I wouldn't use Nano to save him. Like, because like I talked about a second ago, there's so many plays where you can just use Zen as bait, right? Like you can just let Zen die. Like they committed 3 players to kill 1 single player on your team. But luckily he had trance. Okay, that was good. It's a good play from him. And it's a bad play from them to commit 3 players to a Zen and not worry about whether he has trance or not. That was really bad from their team. But like, yeah, I would rarely ever nano my Zen instead of just nanoing my Winston and letting him trade, because like, again, you can just use the Zen as the bait. For every second that Zen stays alive, that's 3 players committed to him, and you guys are only losing 1 player. So the entire team fight, on the other side of the team fight, it's like 5v3 the entire time that he lives. So him being bait is really, really good there. So then nanoing him is kind of a waste of resource. You almost want him to die. You want him to be back there just getting murdered, and him playing like the bad role of the team fight. Like, sorry, Zen, that's what you have to do now. But then now you nano the monkey, and he just dives their backline. He just deletes them super quick, right? So now with the single use of a nano, you've killed 3 players in their backline, or you killed their supports, whatever. And it took them 3 players to kill your Zen, and now he's trance. I didn't even kill him. So rarely ever would I ever nano my other support, unless like, I don't know. I don't want to be black and white about it. I don't want to speak in definitives. I don't want to be like the person who says like always never do this, because they're always Now, there may be some variable I'm not thinking about. There's so many in Overwatch, but in general, I can't think of a reason why I'd ever want to nano my Zen. You know what I mean?
Especially since like we had
Yeah,
the
I'm watching.
soldier and
Yeah, come
we
on,
had like the win condition in
Yeah.
Nanovisor, so
Sure. Yeah. So that's what I mean. You just got to trade out with it. Yeah, it's no worries. I mean, it's fine for you to not nano him there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching.
There are going to be so many cases where your flex support is going to be played as bait, and they're going to understand, okay, this fight I'm probably going to die, guys. But then when they dive me, you just play very aggressive. And like I said, for every second that they live, you guys just get more and more and more and more value. It's like exponential growth if you guys are decent at math. Yeah.
Still left side out.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
can,
Aggressive peek there.
got time.
Doesn't really matter because they don't have players respawn fully yet, so they can't play off of it. You guys need to respect the Widow's LOS though.
Widow top.
So now they finally have the pick
Okay,
that they
left.
needed, in
Follow.
my opinion.
going top now.
Yeah, they're coming.
Just dive
They're
him if you
pushing
go
left
forward.
side.
You punish them when they use mobility.
Okay. Honestly, if this is you guys, it's top tier scrim. The second they realize that you guys are playing this 3-3 defensive like positioning, they take one fight with their Genji and everything, and like all these heroes, and then tell them, okay, this fight we're gonna burn as many ults as possible, and then make sure you guys burn ults before you die, because next fight we're swapping to goats. That's all they do. Like the fight beforehand, that one where they had 5 ultis, they would have burned probably 4 or 5 of them. Any hero who doesn't take place in goats, and then that way next fight when they're dead, they just swap to Ryan, they swap to Zarya. Realistically, on this map, you probably play something like Doom goats or Sombra goats instead of the flat Zarya goats, because Zarya has a really hard time getting value here, but Doom has a good time getting value in some cases. Sombra has an okay time getting value, so they'd probably play something like Sombra goats. They take a fight on cart, you guys would be forced to drop down, then Sombra would hack your tanks, or they just pressure your tanks with a Brigitte and things like that. But they didn't. They stayed on this weird comp. I don't really like it. Anyway, it's a small note there, I guess.
Give us one.
Go for Winston.
Bucket
Go
on
E.
right.
Go for Winston.
you
Winston.
got a
Winston. 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 Winston.
Oh
Winston.
my god.
Oh.
That's why I said Widow's the pick they needed the entire time. So there it is. That's 3
Right.
picks in the same fight from Widow.
Unlucky.
Bad.
What I have?
Fine,
4
hard,
picks.
hard. We just used Dragon for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they're gonna play the Winston Diva here, it did make sense for them not to have a Widow almost the entire time,
You need to all in.
because you did have 3 players back here constantly.
I'm coming.
So she just gets free pressure by even grappling up, even if she doesn't hit a shot. Her being there or her contesting this area from you guys is really strong.
Dude.
Okay, so they'll win this fight. And then we'll speed run defense real quick. So now you guys have a minute on the clock. This is good. Having a minute on the clock is way better than the 5:30 potential we talked about earlier. But you have a minute on the clock because you won team fights and they're kind of scrappy and sloppy. But it wasn't good mindset, right? So we talked about you guys having to take many fights on cart. That should be the mindset. And so even if you lose the fights, the entire time you're pulling out time and pulling out time. So works out better for you guys in the end because you took a fight that was a coin flip, but the coin flip ended up coming in your favor, and it led to this 109, which is really good for your time bank. Doesn't mean it was good for your team or good by your team, but it's lucky. It's really good. And you guys did play some of the team fights well, so no big deal.
Pressure Diva, she has no mobility.
So,
Yeah.
your opinion is that the enemy team played bad?
I think they
instead
threw,
of us
yeah,
playing good?
100%. Because like they took a fight with 5 ultis and they lost, right? So or they didn't they
So
won it,
it's
but then they
shouldn't
didn't push
have
forward and just roll you. Yeah, 100%. They should have just rolled you guys, in my opinion, because you guys were playing so defensively. That one fight where you had 3 players at the very back, and then like your Winston just randomly nanoed and jumped on cart. Like, how do you guys win that? But you did. So,
Yeah.
at least I remember. Yeah, I don't know. They didn't play the best.
Yeah.
I mean, they just tried to keep making Doom work, and then they took 2 fights in a row where like their Winston Diva jumped in and got demacked, and like I don't know, it was kind of bad. But yeah, when you guys lose 2 fights in a row like that on first point, you should kind of assume, okay, this next fight they have all the ultis, we're probably gonna lose this, boys. Just fight on cart the entire time, and that kind of leads to the precedent of, okay, this streets phase we're gonna take as many fights as we can. That's our only goal, to pull this time back down.
It would
And
be
you guys
really
got
nice
it down
have
to.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We don't have an IGL with us right now, so this is kind of.
Yeah, so this is just stuff to keep in mind. Like, even without an IGL, this is kind of just base stuff that you guys can all call. You guys got it down to 103 here on third point, and that's really good. That's way lower than you would have got it if you just took those like many fights on cart or you had that mindset. but it's very coin flippy. You guys got it down to 103 because you took a very risky fight, and if you lost that fight, it could either be 530 or closer or like higher, right? So this 103 is the other side of the coin, and luckily you guys landed on like the side you picked, right? Like proverbially. But if you guys took that consistency, so you took like the mini fights on cart kind of option on second point, yeah, it wouldn't be 103, but it'd at least be like 230, 3 minutes
So I
instead,
have
which
a
is
question
okay.
in terms of if we want to take, because like in that case we go in with the mindset of expecting to lose the fights. We're just burning the clock. So do we use that, like those fights, just to build our ult so we can stabilize in third?
Well, don't use all of them to build ults, right? So say like if it gets to the point where you take a fight and you're like, oh, we have 4 ultis, I think we can just win this actually. Then of course go for it, right? But like you want to open your goal at least for that first fight on second point should have been, we need to group of 6, we need to fight on cart as soon as possible, because you want the cart to have as little distance taken for free, right? So that when you guys do have a fight at some point, if you do have a fight where you're like, oh, we have like 4 ults, we have 5 ults, we can actually win now, that's good, because now when you guys do take the fight, the cart's even further back than it would have been prior. So you don't want to spend the entire time just going, okay, we're gonna lose all these fights, boys, that's our goal. But like the first fight, definitely you should go, yo, they won the last 2 fights really, really hard. They definitely have ults. Can we just take a fight here and like stop the cart? And then if that goes well, then you're like, okay, we'll play for the win, because maybe you won that fight or maybe you lost that fight. And if you lost the fight, you don't have ults, you just do it again. And if you lost the fight and you don't have ults, you just do it again and again. But yeah, the fight where you guys do have ults, for sure, play for the win, absolutely. But you want to take as many fights as possible overall. Gibraltar is a really hard map for a lot of teams. Like that, a lot of teams have a mental block and they're just really bad at Gibraltar. And so like what they'll do at a high level, even in like Al sometimes, is they'll just burn out the clock the entire time. They'll just take like 50 fights on Gibraltar and they expect to lose like almost every single one. But at least by the end of Gibraltar, the clock is overtime, right? Because like they can guarantee that by taking that many fights. And so they're getting past that mental block of being bad at Gibraltar. And yes, the enemy team 3-capped, but they 3-capped with no time. And because Gibraltar is a bit easier to attack for some teams than it is to defend, now they can try to 3-cap with time, and that's how they're going to beat the other team on Gibraltar. And it's a bit more consistent. That's it. Just taking bad, or not bad, but taking like quantity over quality fights on some maps is actually a really good play.
Okay.
Especially on maps where you just can't figure it out. Like if you guys just have a mental block and you're in a tournament and you're like, dude, oh no, they picked like Rialto. What do we do? Right? That's just default play. Just take as many fights as you can, and then now
So
they'll
it's
cap.
like a desperation play.
Yeah, it's like a band-aid fix, right? Like they'll 3-cap, but they'll 3-cap with overtime. So now if you 3-cap with time, you just have a big lead on them.
Yeah.
It's like the brain dead way of winning maps, I guess.
I'm dropping.
Mm.
You want?
Genji.
Dead.
I fucked up.
Divanax.
They're completely alone. Kill the tanks.
Where's the Widow?
Where's no hook? Where's no hook?
Back
Main
right,
right now.
back right, main.
They're being a...
Yeah, for Widow's bottom left.
Do you have Nana?
Oh, we used the last fight.
I was window. Where's she?
Oh, don't. She's main.
She main. She has a trick shot.
Monkey low. And main. Get the Diva out of mech, please. Possible.
Yeah.
Aha.
She's top. I'm going to send. He's by himself.
Really?
That's good. That's really
Okay.
good.
I don't know. Sorry.
Give it the discard.
Demon card. Diva slow on card. So
Yeah,
Monkey
we have.
discard. Yeah. Diva still discard Diva.
Get him. Get that there.
Oh,
I'm hit.
No.
Diva low on card.
Yeah.
Close the ball to the back still.
Almost dead.
Nice, well played, Terry.
Cheers.
Stuck on
Just
the
did
card.
Widow.
Okay, so last fight you guys had major ult economy and they had very little, so I kind of expected you guys to win that. No big deal. And then we will run to attack real quick.
Get him.
Because then Anna dies.
So what do you guys play?
You wanna try with Hammond?
Like a Genji or something?
3-3.
Oh, okay.
Yes, okay. Luciana. That's a pick.
Yeah.
Widow,
They're
fine.
going
Diva top left. They're playing dive as well. Watch out, Widow.
Yeah. They're coming to me.
Living.
Nice.
Monkey. 3, 2, 1.
They're coming to me.
Living.
Nice.
Monkey. 3, 2, 1. Go.
What happened before you
Okay,
skipped
monkey
here
follow.
was that we got a pick on the Doomfist with the Widow at the
They've
start.
already said it as well.
Oh yeah, I saw
Monkey,
that.
can you
Yeah.
twist?
Yeah.
Where the
Okay.
fuck are they?
We killed
They
them.
just-
Them all.
yeah.
Oh, that. Relax, dude.
That would.
I'm just spotting. Genji's.
Where's the
Oh,
Widow?
okay,
Trick
well,
shot.
I got trick shot
They're
from
coming in
the
with that.
high ground.
I'm gonna
second
initiate
point.
the choke. I'm gonna initiate the choke.
Okay, gotta be careful of that.
I should have been earlier there.
And keep in mind, you guys aren't in your healers on the site right now,
Yeah,
so this can get.
the longer you stay there. the
Yeah,
worse
yeah,
it gets.
exactly.
D.Va slow.
Yeah, you can take a quick peek, but gotta be careful if you're not getting value. Okay, so the fight's gonna be a
Come on, Mike,
loss,
get
looks
you one.
like.
Alright, really?
Give us a low. Give us dead.
Maybe I lied.
Monkey.
Winston's point.
Got
Genji
Wolfsbane.
below.
Are they coming in? No,
Okay, I'm a dirty liar. They C9 too.
Just kill him.
Alright, so now you guys clean up. You try to force your snowball with this comp. If it doesn't work, you're looking to comp swap
Okay.
potentially here in the future.
That
For
third
sure.
of the third of the.
Keep in mind some of the things you can do here. If off tanks aren't working, off tanks are very like flexible on this area. So like if you're playing a Zarya on first point, obviously swap to a D.Va. If you're playing a Winston, you're probably in the best case scenario, unless you guys call to play like that death ball on carts type play where you force them to drop off a balcony onto you, in which case you'll play Orion, obviously. Supports, especially the flex support, if you're just getting pressured way too hard as Ana on this map and you're just getting like locked in spawn and you guys can't seem to like actually get on top of the cart and get the cart pushing, your support going Moira is fine as long as you guys play, excuse me, as long as you guys play that very like death bally concept, right? But if you guys play very like vertical up and down playing for dives, Moira has a really hard time dealing with that. Like she can't really heal too well, like with her healing orb, just throwing it up to the skybox and hoping it hits her Winston. So if Yosho does find himself like, yo, I have to swap to Moira, they're just killing me, like I can't get on cart, then you guys probably need to swap your comp too and just play something death bally with the Moira. So the flex support, the flex support can swap heroes. The off tank can obviously swap heroes. The main tank will swap heroes depending on what style of play you're playing. If it's dive, he's going to be on Winston, obviously. If it's death ball, in most cases he'll be on Ryan, unless you're playing that Winston D.Va McCree comp I told you guys about in that screenshot the other day. But yeah, so what you'll see a lot here though is players will get locked into spawn because they're playing the wrong comp and they're like too stubborn to swap or something.
That third of the.
But
third
hopefully
of
here
the...
you guys snowball. You have a comp that's really good at snowballing, so we'll see.
Oh, okay. I mean, get out, get out,
Oh,
get
we
out.
overextend like crazy.
Well, this is pretty big.
Ana's half.
Are you ready to?
So again, just looking to play this space, see if anybody's gonna be stupid enough to come up bank alone. Right now, their D.Va's peeking by himself. If you guys were to come up here and pressure the D.Va and 3v1 from like even from this far away, if you're 3v1ing the D.Va, the entire time he stays here, he's losing that trade because his hitbox is giant. If you had like a DPS up here right now, every time your DPS hits the D.Va, they're gonna get anywhere from 7 to like 12 volt charge depending on the DPS. So she's just not gonna win this trade. It's like you're still getting something by putting players up here. So just the small reasoning for why you rush balcony after you win a team fight and things like that.
Ana's half.
Are you ready to initiate on them again?
I'm coming. Give me a second.
D.Va slow.
Get Jimmy,
Widow's
get
right
Jimmy,
side. Widow's right side too. She's top
Okay.
right. Let's go for her. She's top right.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
I'm ready.
She's so far back. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. I'm going
Can you
for
hear me?
now.
Hear me. Yosho, 2 seconds.
We don't.
Too far off.
This is so
okay.
uncoordinated.
Must be low.
I,
I
I
don't know
didn't
what
even
she's-
know what she was
Below.
after.
Monkey,
Afterwards,
monkey.
just fucks up entirely.
Monkey, monkey on the
Genji
mega.
one.
On right side.
Yeah, this is pretty insanely deep from you guys.
Yeah, I think after I tried to
have
go
both
right,
now,
when I
but
found
we
out
need-
she
we
wasn't
need
there, I
someone
should have
else to
just
scout for
fucked
me
out. We
because-
should have
Yeah,
staged
I
again.
think I
All in.
tried calling that,
swing.
she dropped down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed it. Like if you
Yeah,
get
there's
called.
shit because
We
of-
can get
because
this
of-
in when everyone's back.
It's no big deal. This next fight, you guys have Hamster ults, Doomfist ulti, Nano coming up on beat. You'll get beat this fight, either mid fight or at the end of the fight, and then Pickles coming up on bomb. So this fight, your ult economy that you're looking to play for, is probably a very death bally fight on cart, so that we can guarantee value from Hamster ulti and we can guarantee value from Doom ulti. If we take a very split fight, Doom's ult is going to be very inconsistent, and Hamster's ult may not even be feasible to use the entire time. Their ult economy is Nano Blade because they haven't used it in 3 fights now. Trance because they haven't used it in 3 fights. You guys are probably assuming they have Primal, and a lot of teams don't track D.Va Bomb at all. But because I'm a former off tank player, like obviously I mean, most off tanks can kind of track the enemy diva bomb anyway, so it's kind of on you guys to call your individual or your respective roles ults. So like if you're an Ana player and you notice their Ana hasn't nanoed in 3 fights, you're going to be the person to notice that probably better than most other people, right? Because it's your respective role. That's what you're paying attention to. So you probably call like, yeah, they haven't nanoed either. They definitely have nano. Or like, so here in particular, like I said, off tank's one of those roles people don't like to track a lot because off tank ultis are generally kind of bad. Like, who cares about whole hog?
Right?
Yeah, except for
That's
Zarya,
the-
right? Exactly.
that's
Everybody tracks Graviton. But you know, Pickle's probably tracking, or at least he knows that FaZe has Diva Bomb right now. So if you guys say had an IGL and he said, okay, they definitely have Nano Blade, Trance, and Primal, then that's where Pickle would try, like come in and go, okay, they definitely have Diva Bomb too. She hasn't used it this entire map, something like that. So this next fight, they have major ult economy. You have pretty minor ult economy. So your play is to play around them, right? Instead of trying to enable your ults, because what's going to happen is if you play to enable your ultis, you can enable it as strong as possible, but they may do something as simple as like trance, and everything you tried is just ineffective now. So playing around yours
know
isn't.
for a fact like this fight, I wanted to set up the mines like for the blade, but
Yeah.
we fuck it up so big. Like I can't. We
Right,
set up
and
too
like
much.
the chances of that happening are increased too because they have like this insane lead right now, right? So this is probably a fight where you guys take a dry push, but you guys have the Widow. So if the Widow gets a pick, maybe you transition from a dry push to a real fight or something. Or maybe if your Doom gets a pick, you guys go, okay, we can actually fight this, guys. But until then, you're just in the mindset of let's take a very quick fight. Let's make it look like a real fight, so they burn Nano Blade and get baited, and then we'll die quickly and reset and go back in. And it'll only take like 20 seconds off your clock, and you're good to go. And then you win the next fight. So probably looking for a dry push here. If, like I said, after a couple fights, you're just not getting value out of some of your picks, please do not stay on the same comp on Dorado. It's like, I don't know, it's the biggest
When
time
everyone's
sink
back,
ever.
He's really far forward.
They have now blades. There should be 20 of the trans. Should be
Wait,
those
there's a-
walls,
wait, there's
and they're about that
Break bubble, break bubble.
Are you ready? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm breaking.
Where's
Breaking.
Sen? Where's Sen?
You can dive, you can dive.
Going. Just gonna initiate on Genji.
Without
Genji no
flash.
dash.
Holding.
Come
Yep.
to me. Oh, unlucky.
I made him go with me. Okay, there's no
Okay.
blade.
So at this point, we lost 2 players almost right away. Actually, lost both supports right away. So that's really a very definitive call of okay, just reset, just get out if you can, or die on card if you need to, whatever. There was this post, I think it was by Jane, like a month or 2 ago, where he said something along the lines of like, "I don't believe there's ever a reason a team should dry push." I think that's the most stupid thing I've ever heard. It's like, it's actually just so dumb. If you guys utilize dry pushing correctly, especially on payload, this fight would have happened, or this fight would have ended 10 seconds ago. So that it'd be like 3:48 right now with a reset. Like, okay, or you guys would be ready to take this fight at 3:38. So you guys would already be this fight over with, taking your next fight right now. They wouldn't have the ult economy. And look at your ult economy now. Almost all 6 ults, except for the one ult that almost doesn't matter at all. Like one of the worst ultis in the game, in my opinion, in current meta at least. Dry pushing is insanely effective. Calling that dry pushing is never necessary is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. It's really bad.
2-1.
Huge.
Red 2 picks.
Give a half.
Play safe.
Was it Widow?
We can
Yes, yes,
slowly push onto cart. They're down a bit. A couple.
Yeah, so slowly pushing on the cart is a good call here. If you guys try to aggress too early, you're going to be missing players.
A couple.
And they're down Genji, so you want to try to group as soon as possible and then take the fight.
On top right.
She's main. I can go for her too. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Give
Okay,
us
let's
the
go.
right.
Go now, Winston.
Extra
Just leave.
right.
They can't
Yes.
protect.
I think we're
too early, like you were just pointing out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Widow's half.
Okay, you've committed 2 players for Widow. She burned a single grapple.
It's
and
it's
then-
because we get confused and like from what I'm calling because I think I call out the Widow as a target
Mhm.
and I say it's main, so I go main, but the Widow rotated right and I didn't see, so I ended
Yeah.
up in there alone. The 2 others
Okay.
are going for the Widow.
So what I would be looking to do here from you guys is not commit so many resources to killing a Widow, and rather just committing 1 resource to contesting the Widow, right? Like, and hoping that it goes well. The thing with committing to Widow on a lot of maps is like, even if you kill her, the time invested to do so is going to be like, not really, like we just talked about it with like a Zen playing in here for a certain reason. It's the exact same premise. Like when you dive the Zen, yeah, you're probably going to kill him eventually. But, like you've committed so much that their team should have realistically, if they played it correctly, ignored you guys and just went on the rest of your team. So you guys have 3 players up here right now. So who's left on cart? Lucio, Ana, Widow. Yeah, there's no way. If they dive your team right now on cart, you're just rolled, right? So you got to be careful of this. Even if you do kill the Widow, it's really risky. But if you send one player to just contest the Widow, the entire fight it's just 5v5 for the rest of the team. So at least it's stabilized, and you're taking part of their biggest win condition away, right? When you play Widow, you're playing Widow-centric comps. You're playing comps that can make space for the Widow. You really want the Widow to pop off. So if you can contest her the entire time, they're losing a key piece of their comp. So like I would just probably send like Pickle to go contest, or like ignore, like kind of annoy her, or even send Doom to play like a very aggressive scouting role. So she knows the entire time. I think there's a Doom next to me, and so she doesn't play aggressive at all, like the entire time, because she has to be ready to grapple away. There's so much stuff you guys can do, but sending 3 players to go contest a Widow is almost never the play.
Widow's
Full
up.
support are not there.
Widow's one. Nice.
Full support main.
It was. Genji mid.
Absolutely.
Monkey
now.
fell down.
Yeah,
Monkey
go for
ulted.
sports. That side.
Monkey.
Genji behind. Genji half.
When they full counter dive instead of diving your cart, which like I said, we've talked about many times in many different VODs, it's probably not the play.
Bob Zen on cat.
Get Ana.
Ready in.
Getting pretty good
Yeah,
value from
yeah,
bombs
yeah,
here, or
yeah.
from mines, from Hamster.
Good job, guys. I have the
Okay.
old spawn, so
Just get the monkey.
that was. Nah, go far left, I guess.
Macaque.
Was it
I
with you?
tried, dude. I don't know if you got out. Oh, you ulted.
No more major.
I almost got fucking.
Oh my god, I got burned so fucking quick. Guys, I'm not there.
I use map.
Okay, then now bad one second.
With his death, almost immediately, you guys are just looking to call, okay, let's push the cart as far as we can. When they come up to contest, let's just try to disengage. That's probably your only play here. You're not going to win this 5v6, most likely.
I use map.
Okay, then now bad one second.
You can also back
Yeah,
off a bit.
they're all
I'll be
the
back.
time.
They're not blading. Okay, no,
Yeah,
they're blading.
yeah,
It's
that's
fine. Just let him. We just reset.
Are we switching here? And
Yeah, you can switch the
Let's
Widow. I
try
think.
Swam one more time because I have bombs. And they didn't reset, so it's so close anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have ult. We can do this.
Have the rest of the show.
Do you want to try and set up the Diva bomb with a slam?
Sure.
yeah,
I'll throw it over top.
Genji for right side.
We need to know where they're holding though, the support.
Yeah.
They're holding top right. I can
No.
go for that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Going now?
Spoiler alert, I can't. There's a fucking
Yeah,
roof,
Bob Daniels, yes,
so
now
I'm
on
dumb.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
It's Doom, yes.
Unlucky.
Good slow.
Yeah.
I'm so dead.
I'm
Hit
dead.
Ana's one.
Ana one,
Ana
Ana
dead.
one,
Ana
Ana
dead. Get Winston, jump in.
Slipping.
Monkey.
That's
Netted.
You got two, I got beat.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you guys have told me before you don't like playing goats, but like, yo, they're playing Genji, my dude. Like this hero's so bad. You just pick a Brig and this hero's like terrible for the entire game. Anytime you have a Brig and they're playing Genji, Genji just cries. He just sits there and cries. Like even when he has Blade, he just cries. So like, this being the one section of the map that's very enclosed, and if you guys have been to my previous VOD reviews, you've heard me talk about how Blizzard has map design where on the third point of almost every single payload map, they make it very enclosed or like way different at least than the other 2 points. Then you would know, okay, this section is like you talked about, very enclosed. It favors a different comp than the first 2 points, and it does. This third point, while the first 2 points favor dive, this third point favors control very hard, or death ball. So you pick up a Brig, and now Hiku's Genji is trash. Now, in a lot of cases, Doomfist's engage is pretty bad as long as you put your Brig on top of your supports, because now he can never dive your supports anymore. Even when he ults, your team can play behind the Brig shield, or your Brig can just face the Doom ulti with her shield, and he can't get value now because it breaks LOS. There's so much stuff you can do. Brig counters this DPS to some extent, kinda, but it counters Genji so much. It also counters the Winston drop in, and it counters the Diva drop in. So you guys would replace, in my opinion, probably the Soldier. Soldier's going to have a very hard time getting consistent value here. It's going to be a lot of fights where he does okay, and a lot of fights where he just gets auto-killed. And because I don't like coin flip comps, and I think coin flips are bad, which you guys have heard me say before, you reduce the coin flip, or reduce like the inconsistencies by just replacing it with a Brig. And if that doesn't work, you just keep going further and further into like the Death Ball. So you just swap, now you swap the Hamster to Orion. If that doesn't work, okay. Now you swap, maybe you're doomed to a Sombra and you play it for like hack Death Ball, things like that. Whenever they drop in, now you hack the Diva, you just roll her, she dies. So much stuff you can do, but if this next fight doesn't work, and it's going okay, but if this fight doesn't work, keep that in mind for future maps. Third point on all these payload maps is way different than the first two, almost always, because of the way that Blizzard designs maps. So in most cases, on third point, you will be better off swapping comps if it's not going well. That's also why, and you guys have probably seen this, and like especially in your ranked games or in some of your scrims, the first two, like when you're on defense, the first 2 points will go very, very poorly, and then the third point you just hold for like 5 minutes sometimes, right? So think like on Numbani, I bet you guys in ranked all the time. When you first 2 points just get rolled, third point, there are a lot of cases where you just hold third point Numbani for like 5 minutes, right? That's because the offense did really well on Winston D.Va, and they're like, oh, Winston D.Va is working really well for us, and they play Winston D.Va for 5 minutes on third point, not realizing Winston D.Va on third point Numbani attack is complete garbage, right? Same thing for all these maps. So same thing here. Fights aren't going your way, just slowly start transitioning your comp over. You want to take away those inconsistent heroes. You want to get rid of the widows. You want to get rid of the soldiers. You want to get heroes who have immediate value, so that as soon as you get on the cart and they drop in, you're immediately getting value, immediately contesting. There's no inconsistencies. If you lost the fight, it was strictly on how you played the comp, not on your comp being bad.
You got two, I got beating.
But yeah, them playing Genji, I think Genji's one of the worst DPS in the game right now. There's a reason why the meta out of nowhere shifted from Sombra Genji to Sombra Doom. It was because Goats just became the best comp in the game by far, and you can't play Genji into Goats, so Genji just stopped seeing play.
Beating.
So here you guys have 3 picks now and a beat. You should actually win this fight.
Start push.
Fight payload.
You need to be aggressive though. I don't know why you're not. Oh, you're missing a
yeah,
player.
top.
Okay.
I was spawning, I think. but-
Yeah, no big deal. That's a good bomb. Force that shrink.
Winston in the back.
It's definitely worth.
I'm on Winston.
Yeah, no, do one. I'm dead. Okay, nice heals.
Get Genji.
I'm slamming.
Break bubble.
They got Belgium. I don't know.
Give one.
Zen on right
There you go.
side in right
Living,
right
living,
side
living.
in the
Anna dead.
Maki,
Give
him a
back.
card.
Give him
No,
one.
headband. Maki coming back.
Walk one.
Oh,
Little
God,
bit.
I'm dead. Sorry.
Dead.
Duke
Okay.
is on caught.
Are you kidding?
Living again. Okay, I'm gonna part there.
Nice.
Genji OP.
I have visor. Do we have nano? No.
Strong hero.
I didn't.
Anna.
Give him.
I'm top right, so.
Alright.
Push you one.
Yeah,
Looking
I
like
see
the team fight ender right here. Oh, you guys are getting really split now, actually.
Beep.
You won.
Winston one.
Push your left.
D.Va one. I'm just gonna put bombs on.
Attack, way better than defense, for sure. And you guys just made a small, simple mistake on defense. If you guys fix that, it goes way better in the future. For first point, it's just your rotations, and rotations are super easy to fix, at least in that case. Sometimes it's really hard. But yeah, I think we touched on basically everything you guys needed as far as I can tell. Was there anything I didn't bring up that you guys wanted me to answer or like talk about before I leave?
Well, from what I like gauged on the especially attacking part, I think I'm a bit too eager to wanna go aggressive instead of just taking the free payload that we can before we set up.
At least on Hamster, from what I saw, yeah. I think you
Yeah.
guys are in the mindset of like, we're playing a very snowbally comp, let's just snowball the entire time, which is
Yeah.
not always the case. Like once they stabilize, you have to respect that and just play a normal team fight. You know, until they do stabilize, of course you can always snowball.
I think we
noticed
play
that-
too aggressive in general, even when we're grouping.
As
Like,
opposed to Zetsu's aggressive playstyle, I played a bit more passive there as D.Va and didn't follow up as often.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, like that happens a lot. We stagger ourselves for like pushing way too far. Well, I don't know. I don't have any questions.
All right, boys. Well, oh, did you have a question? Sorry. So it strictly depends on your guys' win condition. So say your win condition next fight is to force them off high ground, then yeah, by all means, send all 6 players up there, force them down, and then drop in, things like that. If your win condition revolves around, like, say, nano blading, where you guys don't have to take away the high ground, then probably just go main, because it takes less time, and you can peel for your Ana a bit better there, because she'll be further back. Completely depends, though, on what you guys are looking to do, or, like, what your pre-fight planning is for the next fight, you know what I mean? And then if Ana's just getting dived over and over and over, and she's not getting value, like we talked about on the second point, again, your Ana can go like Moira. Yeah, and you guys can play very Death Volley. And this is a point where, because it's kind of low verticality compared to second point, verticality is insane. Like, it's like 10 character models from the floor to the top. But here it's like maybe 5 character models at most. What is that, like 4, I don't know. So here you actually can like throw a healing orb up here in this yellow room and it'll bounce enough that your team gets healed, things like that. So you can play more with dive. On third point here, pretty okay, like with a Winston. But yeah, if Ana's just getting pressured way too much and you guys just aren't getting value, don't just stay on Ana because it's a better support overall. You know, you can swap it. Moira's not that bad or so bad that you just shouldn't play it anymore. But yeah, completely depends on win condition. And if you guys can't execute win condition because she's getting killed, just swap her to a Moira, and you guys can accommodate the comp by swapping to Rein, or on certain maps you can just keep the Winston.
Alright, cool. Well, I think that's it. So we'll probably like end here. It's been like 2 hours. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot of information. Yeah, for sure, guys. If you guys have any questions, just hit me up. I'll be coaching all day.
Alright, cool. Cheers.
see ya.
Thanks.
Yep, likewise.
Thanks, dude.
Alright, well.